Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LJL OU's Christmas special podcast. I feel like this is where we're meant to have Christmas music, but
Wait, I might have something in the background. Let me check.
We've not quite
Deck
updated
the stream with boughs of holly. Tra la
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 la.
la.
You're out of time, but that'll do.
That's perfect. Welcome, everybody. I am Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, go by Mars1 on the internet. I will be one of your three lovely co-hosts. Oh, perfect.
If you get us DMCA'd, I'm gonna be very upset, but that's amazing.
I love it. I'm pretty sure Universal owns all of these music
Okay,
things,
well,
right?
it's just very quietly on in the background for a
You know,
little
you can't
bit.
say you can't sing "Happy Birthday" in a public environment because Universal own it. It's
Yes,
like
I did know that.
mental.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, they
Anyway.
deliberately don't allow Disney to use it. They have to.
That's
Disney
right,
has to have
yeah.
its own happy birthday song because just to be petty towards Disney.
That man there just talking is Sam Initialized Habgood.
Yes.
Welcome, sir, to the podcast.
Glad to be here. It's a bit of a surprise. We kind of decided, there's been a lot of LJL drama, and it's kind of been nice to get back and chatting about league stuff. The off season has dragged on. It's been a bit of a wild ride, and I'm quite glad to come back to known shores for a little bit.
Yes, it's nice to be back in a certain place, a safe environment, especially when the world is in a rather scary place once again. Oh well.
Alas.
But thankfully, the beautiful jawline of Alex Nymera Habgood is here to save
Freshly
us
shaved.
from that. So your beautiful haircut is here as well with your brothers. How are you doing, sir?
Off-season is a special kind of horrible at times with, like, a lot of stuff in EU obviously going under a lot of changes with, some potential jobs being up in the air and all this other stuff. So it's like, it's
Exciting.
definitely been a rough introduction to the reality of off-season for broadcasts, because we know it can be harsh for players, but like, as much as I'd like to think I understand, I was very naive, and it kind of took me a little bit blindly. So there's been a lot of opportunity, a lot of excitement, a lot of anxiety to go alongside that. However, on the whole, I'm doing pretty well, and yeah, it kind of feels pretty good, pretty satisfying to come back to LJL stuff, because as much as we've been caught up in that storm, we've got like this little eye of the storm in the middle of it, where we're kind of safe and we're cozy, and yeah, a bit more familiar territory.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we all recommend grab a tea, grab a coffee, get some snacks, get comfy, because we're just going to talk about some roster moves from around the LJL and some other stuff. But before we get into that, let's just check in with one another and see, and just have a catch up and update people.
Yeah, it's been a while.
What we've been doing. And I'm going to come over to you first, Nymera. You were the one that yelled, yeah, let's go. So let's go.
Okay, what have I been doing? Stuff. I have to keep things vague, all this other stuff. But yeah, obviously, a couple of podcast episodes ago, which actually encompasses quite a lot of time if you think about it. I went full time as a caster. After the academic year ended for us here in the UK, and yeah, there's some exciting things on the horizon. So keep your eyes out on that side of things. Besides
streaming a bit more.
Yeah, I have a little bit, or I did for a short amount of time to do some stuff, and then I kind of burned out on that a little bit as I do, because winter's horrible. I did do an Ari every role stream, so I played Ari in every role, as in not played to win. I had to get a win in each one. I ended up doing alright. First time on Ari Jungle, somehow, someway. It was a really fun stream. Got to kind of sit and play with a load of friends, which I haven't done for a while. And that was really cool. So that's largely been me kind of navigating the off-season, doing a bit of streaming, trying to keep myself going. That's about it.
Nice. Myself, I've mostly been doing like IRL working stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Which has been alright. It's been good fun. Keeps me occupied, especially on some of these weird times, especially with off season.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of more time just in general, so it's nice to just be kind of keeping some of my time occupied. Outside of that, been playing a bunch of D&D once a week with a group, which has been a lot of fun. Even done that, and as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, I have moved, so I'm in a different environment. So this is
still the same. Been the same for 2 years.
I do kind of wish I had that though. but all over the place. I'm an explorer. Still playing Final Fantasy. Haven't had as much time, but basically with Endwalker, I will definitely be back onto it all. I'm just been busy. Yeah, that's just been me. Sam, how you been? What you been up to, buddy?
Kind of a weird mix of like, similarly to Alex, some interesting opportunities that shall not be named. Been talking about, and potential plans for next year. All of that kind of stuff's been really exciting, but quite stressful. A lot of decisions to make, but I think they have in the end come through to something pretty exciting that when the time is right, there'll be more to talk about. But that's been really cool, but obviously quite a lot of work as well. Been taking a bit of time to play some games I don't have a chance to, so finally got through things like Ruined King. I got the chance to play
I played a lot of Ruined King, actually,
Yeah,
thinking about it.
playing through the second World Ends With You, which I put off for half a year. Finally had a chance to put a bit more time in that. It's not the first game, never was going to be, but it's a wonderfully lovely experience. You can tell it's a really worthy successor to the original, which is difficult to say, considering for me how great that original game was. Aside from that, went on holiday with some friends for the first time in a very long time. A load of my music friends basically hired out a barn near Ipswich, brought a load of instruments, and we just jammed for a week. It was utterly amazing. Gonna go play with some of them. One of them is getting married. Well, got married last year, but is getting married on Monday. So a load of us in the band, or one of the bands. He's got 3 of them because all of our friends are music friends. So he's basically just organised us all into various bands for the reception. So playing on Monday for that. So gonna travel tomorrow to go set up for that, which I'm really excited for as well. Been spending most of the day learning.
It's the wedding bells. You can hear them already. Oh,
learning. Yes, I've been learning.
I get like a couple of them per podcast and just make sure I use them early. So you're free now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's great. Been learning some music for that as well. So that's kind of been the most of it. Is a mixture between music, holidays, prepping for next year, a little bit of writing here and there, and actually a bit of chance to play some video games for the first time in a while.
Fantastic. Sounds like we've all been able to kind of take a bit of time for ourselves lately and kind of enjoy the off season for what it actually is. Because gentlemen,
the off season.
It's well, we've not got much longer till that off season. We've got a few announcements throughout this podcast. We've got some things we're going to talk about, but first things first, gentlemen. It's time to shill. What, Nymera? What would I like people to do if they are on YouTube right now?
Is it weird that I can remember this? After months of not doing a podcast where I couldn't remember, like after doing so many weeks in a row, I want you to like, comment, and subscribe. I can't believe it took me like a good dozen podcasts of completely forgetting that. A massive break to finally remember that. Like, so if you want to like praise me and support me in my memory deeds, do that. Like, comment, subscribe. Give us a rating. Give us everything.
He's actually going to really need it as well, because I don't know if it's just me, but Initialize is Nymera a little crackly?
He is quite crackly.
He's a little crackly.
I'm just saying, look. I know it's a season of crackers, but that's a bit intense, man.
Mate, crackling is one of my favorite unhealthy things.
Oh, it's still there.
Are we good?
Go on. No.
Oh no.
No, we're not.
Oh no. Save Nymera.
Look, he's not happy. I'm looking at his face.
And getting that notification bell.
For every subscriber,
it sounds completely fine on my end. What?
Maybe
Wait, just disconnect and reconnect on Discord, maybe.
Okay.
Come back. Be here, I promise. You can see his microphone.
I'm really hoping it's okay.
Oh no.
Nope.
It sounds completely fine on stream, so I have no idea.
Okay.
Really? So it's just Discord.
I can listen to my own mic.
Okay, Kirby's right. It's just us. We've just got to deal with Robot Nymera. Maybe it's us, Lexi.
Maybe
we're
I am not the robot here.
It's not me. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking over some of the most recent news. We are going to be doing a proper episode when season 3 of our podcast will be starting at the very beginning of the spring season. This is kind of just a filler episode, a special one, so we can kind of gush and talk about things we really want to talk about, especially, and gentlemen, we actually have to hold a vigil, not a wedding, a vigil.
Yeah.
Because Arya has left the LJL, he has left DF DFM and has signed to be the starting mid laner for KT Rolsters. Congratulations to him more than anything else. But
because
man, it's sad.
Because let's be honest, I could I could stay on this topic for a very long time, and I know I said a lot of stuff on Twitter at the time as well. But like the first thought is actually really, really happy for Arya because he deserves it. He's a great player, awesome player. We knew he was the best that the LJL had to offer. We knew that, and we knew it'd be very lucky if he stayed for the LJL. But it would also be holding him back on an individual level. So hopefully, gives him a chance to really shine.
I mean, that's basically where I'm at as well, right? Like, this guy is a wonderful talent. And in the end, it was always going to come down to a bit of a decision for him between whether he was.
Oh, let me know if this mic works better on Discord, by the way.
Oh, it is. You fixed it?
I just changed input.
That's incredible. Well, thank you for. There you go. He's back on our end. He was never a problem on stream, but the Roboto on Discord has disappeared, and that's great.
The glitch in the Matrix.
What is a mixture of emotions is still Arya leaving, because I mean it's an amazing opportunity, right? Like, it's going to make Alex very challenged because of course he's a big T1 fan.
No,
but he's joined the rival. He's joined KT. He's the telecom war is going to be like mom and dad fighting for Alex. It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough one.
Yeah, so he's going to have some serious trauma. I'll make sure to video it.
What do you mean? I actually didn't know that those two played. Those teams don't play each other, right? They just it's just white noise for about a best of three's length of time. Just blank noise, right?
Yeah, and like but the thing is, this is the deal when you are a minor region. And you've got an incredible talent who isn't endemic to your region either. This is not a Japanese resident. This is a Korean import who has basically proved that this guy is world class, and that was always going to put his value up. And that was always going to be difficult to hold on to him.
The way that he ended Worlds by killing Faker in a 1v1, right? Like, that's how you get the cherry on the top. Yeah. Like, we're going to make LJL history here. So everyone will talk about and know this team. Like, it goes down in history. It was maybe one of the best worlds we've ever had. And the fact that DFM, minor region, doing this kind of thing, and he was a part of that role. So he was the key to solving something the LJL, and DFM especially, couldn't do time and time again. This roster came together. It was the super team. We called it. We got it. It felt great. Arya was a part of it. We pegged Arya as like the next coming, and then no other player came in and elevated our region. We had seen people come in and elevate things, especially in Arya's time. Like, Boogie is the first name that jumps to mind. Like, we've had Ebby here for years, right? But Arya was just something special, right?
For sure. Because, there have been, like, eras of certain players doing very well. Of course, we had Ramune in terms of home ground.
Yeah, before.
Saros and Ebby, of course, have been more of a kind of like a recent kind of duo, right? I guess they came together in 2018, and then, 2019, we had kind of Gango. It slotted into that roster as well. Like, we've had some star players, but...
Well, Blank Empyrean era as well, along the time.
And actually, in fairness to him, Arya's given 3 years of his career to the LJL.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's a long time for a league player, especially for a minor region. And 2 of those years were on CGA, which was never likely to win the LJL. It was never likely to get to like, international competition. But he's given a hell of a lot for the LJL. So for him to have this payoff of actually being put into the LCK... having that moment in the limelight and being able to kind of like put himself actually up in one of those montage plays and be like, actually, minor region achievements, DFM with Arya.
Yeah. I mean, I'll fight you on a little bit because 29 CGA was a legit contender. They were really good.
Regular season, they were. Regular season. I'd argue that summer it kind of fell apart at the end.
I can grant you that. Yeah. And that's kind of the right. Like, he's been on a contender, but not the winning team. He's been on a team that was him or bust in 2020.
Oh, because you could say 2020 summer too, actually.
DFM, it was incredible.
Yeah, 2020 summer as well. They would like the coin flip, but like the weighted coin flip. That's how we kept referring to them.
But Unica wasn't the Unica we're going to be seeing coming in
this
year.
It's
not the same Unica, and that's the one we wish we had back in 2019.
Yeah.
Boy, if they had that. No. That team genuinely, and also, remember, gentlemen, it was the old playoff system, not the new one that we're used to, not the defining one that we adore with the 6 teams making it through. It was a top 3 only making it through, so it was a lot tougher. Extra week as well of regular games. Just
fairly sure semifinals and finals happened on the same day in the old system too.
Oh, no,
like it was literally best of 5 and best
and it was it's like it was an extra week. Everyone played everyone 3 times. That's why.
It was a best of 1. triple round robin, not a double round robin. But yeah, Unica came in summer 2020 as well, because we had
I believe, yes.
We had, who was the jungler in the first part? Was it Yoshi? Yoshi, who really struggled, right? He really struggled.
Yeah, it was someone who really struggled.
And then, but like, Unica came in, but like wasn't awesome. Was kind of a bit invisible. But then now.
And the thing is, he'd been around for ages. He'd been on Axis beforehand as a substitute.
Yeah.
Like, he's just one of these players that's been cooking in the fridge. But anyway, we'll get on to him in a moment because, gentlemen, we need to talk about another player that's left us. And actually, a huge name when we consider everything. Because, Alex, can you go over to a special little tab? Because I think this is an appropriate moment to bring it up. Our all-star players, ladies and gentlemen, Hoglet has left us. He has actually returned to a former team of his back over in the LLA of the All Knights. And honestly, coming to you first, Initialize, this was a player who only kept improving again and again and again and really came into his own in 2020. Oh, no, 2021.
Yeah,
2021.
He really did. He had an interesting time on Axis, and I don't think it's one that's necessarily going to be all roses, but actually he managed to fight against
but the
some very
2020
difficult
miracle
situation.
run, man.
Exactly, he may help. Exactly, he makes the miracle run, and even in this year, like with the likes of Honey at the time, who like sort of like came from being a decent but like otherwise unmentionable AD carry on the Hawks in 2020 to being a legitimate monster. I mean, I think he had the highest worldwide DPM stats of any starting ADC, but in summer 2021, like this kind of monster carry. And the other side of that was Hoglet, who was always so good at getting things rolling in an early game when there wasn't an opportunity for Axis to get rolling. It was often basically saying Hoglet going, fine, I'll do it myself, taking a ganking jungler like Volley Bear and running people over. And he really did have a chance with a little bit more carry potential from other places to really shine in 2021. He really did show up, and he still had that kind of playmate, not necessarily purely playmaking, but like movement potential where he would get things rolling on the map. He'd be the spark to get things happening. And and that was a big deal for that team, and I'm very excited to sort of potentially see him making sure go of it again in the LLA. Of course, we're sad he's gone, but it's good to have it. It's good to see that he's moving on to good teams as well.
And I mean, obviously on that image, there are some other players we will come to as well. Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to just?
I mean, do you want to say anything about Hoglet?
That's true. Sorry, that's true. Actually, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself because actually Hoglet for me, we had so many good moments with Hoglet because we started in 2020 spring. Hoglet was like, he was pretty trash.
He was
like. He was literally probably the worst performing player in the LJL in like the first 2 weeks of 2020 spring. And it was not pretty. He was playing Rek'Sai when no one else was, which was okay. We liked the draft. It was like Rek'Sai Rise when no one was playing Rise. And you just dive into turrets and just randomly die. And it was like, it was getting quite hard to cast a lot of those games because it was like, look, he's just inting. Like he's just,
it was like you knew you were playing against Axis.
Yeah. But then actually, you know, like, a lot of the runs which we had starting with him, you know, the Miracle Run in spring, a lot of the best games in summer too. Remember, the Miracle Run in spring, I believe, or it might have been the one in summer, started with like beating a rampant Sengoku. And this was in Sengoku looking awesome. Picks in the volleyball, like Sam was saying, instantly
Wasn't
just like...
that Super Week game?
I think that was Super Week, and you think they just killed Pyrion on cooldown when Pyrion was like the unkillable
That's
mid.
right, that was that mental game.
He did so, like, again, that was kind of like Hoglet at his least consistent, right? Like, you'd have these games that, like, you knew he would go for a play, and there was something about that ability to just say, screw it, nothing else is going to happen on this team unless I make it happen, and him going for it. And sometimes it looked atrocious, and sometimes it looked good. A little bit of a thought, perhaps, towards someone like Cassin, who had a similar kind of carry or bust potential, though obviously very slightly different vibes. Hoglet's
God damn it!
Different style.
Take flash on Karthus, you fool! That 1v3 game is still going to give me nightmares, I tell you. It's like, he's not taking Flash versus Leona. Wow, Leona hits him and loses the game.
Levi still runs exhausted.
Yeah, it's a bit different when you get hit by Leona and literally lose your team in the game because you can't get soul. Anyway, so like obviously that was like a lot of our early impressions of Hoglet. That was talking about Cassin very briefly there for those of you who just jumped into that part of the conversation. But when we kind of come through to this year, though, it was something which we hadn't seen, which was like real consistency. And that's like, I actually can't remember any other split where Axis has been like consistent And actually, even in spring,
there's
actually,
never been one that we know of.
Even in
ever
spring,
actually in their history.
Well, remember they finished like bottom with like 3
pushing,
wins and a best of 1 triple round run with like 21 games. They were 3 wins in like every damn split, which is low numbers. And even in spring, actually coming into this season, like Axis struggled. But like coming to summer, I don't know what happened to Hoglet, but he looked like a man on fire. He was just like, he was off the, he was incredible. Like even in the games where like you could kind of pull him aside and say, is he kind of inting? There was a Diana game where I'm like, oh, maybe whatever. I kind of pulled everyone back on that. Was like, because we were on desk, and I was like, look at the KDA. I'm like, yeah, but he was the one person making plays. If they were going to win that game, it was through that kind of mindset. And that's the kind of mindset I love to see from him in this split. It was so fun to see.
Yeah, he was truly phenomenal. He elevated not only in a spot when, honestly, there was an interesting question that a lot of us had going into 2021 of who's going to fill the jungle void, or is it just going to be Steel's jungle, and that's going to be it. And that was a genuine concern that the three of us had going in, and we actually have multiple junglers step up. Hoglet was one of them that really came in. And talking about a player that was alongside Hoglet, because we must move on. Honey from Axis as well. He was if you want to say that Hoglet got to pop off, Honey was the anchor that the team needed. And I hate to say that I called it and predicted it, but I absolutely fucking did, ladies and gentlemen. I called this kid when I first saw him coming into the league, and I'm like, this kid's going to be big. He promptly went off and changed everything, led minor region in just every score imaginable that an AD carry should do, and also shouldn't just sometimes, because he's just that freaking good with a bunch of rookies around him. Hoglet being there for also consistency's sake, and Axis just had a method, and they went so much further than any of us could have imagined. Honey has stayed. He's moved to Sengoku Gaming. He's left Axis, and man, 3 years for this guy. Year number 3, we're coming in 3 different teams, and he's only getting better and better each year.
He really is. I think this was the year that actually made him. He was, as I said, relatively. He was fine, but like unremarkable was probably the term I'd say on his first stint on the Hawks. And then this year, he absolutely exploded, and all puns intended. Like his jinx was literally kind of, it was almost a crime if you didn't ban it or have a strategy against it. It was that good.
Jinx from Arcane actually was just Honey this whole season.
Exactly. Like Honey, I Shrunk the health bars will be forever a call I will hold on to for this guy, because he is just so good at points. And I'm excited to see what he can do on a new team. He's moving to obviously a team that's
Sengoku.
been willing to make some big moves in previous years. I think them and the Hawks are probably the two newer orgs in the LJL that have been willing to try and commit to making some contending teams. And I think there are a couple question marks on the Sengoku roster, but I still think if the pieces align, there's some real damage this squad could do, and I'm really excited to see what Honey has in store for him in 22. He was really good on the hyper carries. I'm curious to see whether he can kind of do the same, maybe with a bit of a different meta change to really smash it out the park in 22 as well.
Yeah. What about you, Nightmare? Honey, what a guy.
I just remember that first split in that last place Hawks roster where he was playing MF and he didn't get a single win on it, even though it was his most played champion. And like, it was, at the start of the split, like, this was the kind of point where like, we were doing analysis, but it's like, kind of like Baby's first analysis, where we just kind of like throw a dart at the dartboard and just see what we could do. And I was like, oh, these players are going to be great. And then I got really lucky with Arian. Like, Aria's definitely the best player, all this other stuff. And eventually that kind of paid off. And then Lexi had this guy called Honey and was like, shit, isn't he? It's not doing very well. Oh, he's losing a lot of misfortune. He's getting caught out of position a lot. Well, it did take a year. It did take 2 splits, but I don't know what more you can ask from a player than Honey's given. Like, there was a real change in the Axis roster this year. And again, Hoglet is included in this too, where they were kind of moved out from rosters with more veteran personalities around them, put into somewhat of a leadership role, or rather surrounded by more new talent. We don't actually know what the shot calling side of things was like on that, at least I don't. But it just I don't know. Maybe
leading it from what we remember seeing from the Axis actual personal vlogs that they've done on YouTube.
But I think the way that I would characterize the way that those two played in particular was just being much more free, much more played to themselves. They weren't
very selfish. In a way,
part of it's somewhat selfish, but the way I'd say is more free to do as they see right? So like that can be playing more supportive when it comes to it, but it's more like their vision of the game was given to them. They weren't forced to play by someone else's book. They weren't forced to play, some kind of compromised style. And you have to do that to some extent in any team, right?
Yeah,
but the fact that Honey got to play the way he wanted to, Hogla got to play the way he wanted to, was so important to these guys. And I have to say, I'm really sad this Axis roster well, I mean, we've already talked about Hogla and Honey, but like we'll go on to the whole Axis thing after this. But the main thing is like losing these two key parts, regardless of what happened to the rest of them. This Axis roster for me was the second best team at the end of this season, right? I thought they did better than Rascal Jester in their final series and playoffs. I don't think that. Sure, you can argue that either way, but they were a strong team. They were a great team to have in the region. Of course, those pieces are going to go perform well elsewhere. I would have loved to see a bit more from them, but obviously we're not going to go see that now.
No, and I think it's good that Honey has stayed. I'm glad the LCK hasn't called him home quite yet. But
not far, mate. I can feel it.
Exactly, but this is a guy who is putting his hands up alongside Sol, really to be and honestly Utapon is kind of the guys who are like, you must be this tall to ride the LJL bot lane roller coaster. Like those guys were so good, and it'll be interesting because this is his third team in 3 years. It'll be a different bot lane pairing again. NT didn't have the best 2021, but we know that historically he's been a monster. He's been a very good Thresh player historically, actually, alongside having weird stuff like, Rumble support, because why wouldn't you? I am excited to see what someone like NT, who has historically been really good sort of lane dominant support often with some interesting picks, does with a guy like Honey who is often wants to be the focal point and the carry point for the team. And they've got Paz as their weak side top laner. They've got all the tools to make things happen. I'm quite excited to see that happens.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Sengoku is definitely exciting roster, but we'll come on to them in a moment. We'll come on to them in a little bit because I think
in due time.
I think there's something more. I'll have none of this.
Yeah, it is. But we've got sections, sir. There's a system.
Fine.
We've got a running order and everything. You guys might not think we do. We do. Whether it's followed is different.
And I actually want to go on a point that you have set up for us, Nomera, and that is about Axis. Because from what we currently know, Axis has pretty much fallen apart. The only remaining piece has remained Megumin, and that is because he was the only player in the whole of the LJL who signed a 2-year deal when he was first signed, coming off of that Scouting Grounds performance back at the end of 2020. Coming into the 2021 was his first full season. Coming into 2022 will be his next one, but everybody else has left. Obviously, we've already mentioned Honey and Hogla have already left. We now know that Ino has been signed to Rascal Jesters as their top laner.
Let's talk about that in a separate point, because I do want to talk about Rascal. I know I didn't write that down, but I do want to talk about them as well. But yeah, sorry, back to Axis stuff.
Absolutely. There are already rumors that Nemo has secured a home in the LJL.
Okay.
We don't know yet where. The current rumor that I recently heard was Hawks. He replaced Corporal. But honestly,
that's funny, because I heard the rumor that Rhino was going there, but then again, both of them are really good LJL support, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think that Nemo's a little bit more raw. Rhino's a little bit more.
But remember his playoff series in 2021 versus CGA, where he 2v1 basically, and Honey was just like, "What the fuck? I get to just get free kills now? I get to CS and
remember this." This is the guy who, earlier on in the season was switched out for DICE, right? Like, because he wasn't performing at the level they wanted. So, so I'm saying, like, the reason I bring it up is that...
series.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is this is a guy who we know is highs, particularly on Thresh, which he was so comfortable on. But, there's still a bit of room to grow. You could still see that, he was, particularly earlier on in the season, was still kind of feeling his way into pro play, feeling his way into consistency. And Can he be the Thresh God 2v1 king on other champions that aren't named Thresh is what I need to see, especially if he is going to a team that is often been someone who's been investing, like the Hawks. And I have a lot of hope for him, but there are some hurdles to get over that I am excited to see him attempt. I think he can make it, but there are hurdles to make.
But basically, what this means is that we know it's almost confirmed that Axis have been gutted. Yes. And for not the first time, we're going to go see another iteration of Axis have to come through. This year, they weren't playing with Coach Yang as well because they went to DFM. So you're looking at last year and some of the stuff which made that special. And actually, because even when Axis kind of sucked, some of their strategies were fun. They were good. I liked them. I thought they were effective strategies. They just weren't executed well. So then you have to kind of go through a lot of the steps again and kind of just, there's a lot of things you have to approach from a coaching standpoint. But the building blocks were fine there. But now they have to go through another rebuild phase for an org which has very commonly found failure, very rarely found success. They get one whiff of it and they can't hold on to it. And that sucks because this was a team which I think all of us had a bit of a soft spot for after that 2020 spring run. And of course, after having so many different star players kind of rise up through the ranks this year alone.
Oh, completely. Every player on that team actually had one game where they can say, I won that one. Yeah. No, nobody else on this team, I actually won that. I think that Nocturne game where he just said in the end game interview, I just pressed R every time. And it was just my dude, you're not meant to have 14 kills or 13 kills in a pro game. That's not okay. But everyone did in that team. They were a special roster. A lot of rookies.
Remember that Gangplank game he lost versus DFM?
Oh,
I know he lost that game. He did so well in that game, though, actually.
He was close. He was doing very well.
It was against Ebby. He beat out Ebby in laning phase. It was GP versus Set, but it's Ebby, right? So you definitely put some name brand on that. And basically, besides some hero plays from Arya, that game was all I know all the time.
Which I actually think this is a perfect point, Nightmare and Initialize. Let's talk about that top lane spot of the Rascal Jesters. And I know stepping into another rookie's spot. That was Kanatu's. That was our MVP rookie of the Spirit. That was Kanatu's spot. He was the best player that came in. He was genuinely always up for fighting. Remember, he was a former professional Fortnite player, came to League of Legends, smashed it through Scouting Grounds, was one of my top picks, and then came through.
Funnily enough, Kanatu, wasn't he an Overwatch player as well?
I'm not sure.
Pretty sure he was an Overwatch player.
Was he Overwatch before? Not a Fortnite.
Okay. I know he's a pro player at something. I thought it was Overwatch.
You might be Overwatch. I feel like I might be wrong with the Fortnite one.
Yeah. But either way, I know that we actually, because we've traded some messages, right? I know we've been kind of winding down on LJL stuff, over stuff. I haven't heard either of your opinions on Ino versus Kanatu. Actually, Sam, I might have talked to you very briefly about it. I know you're searching something.
I've got your answer.
I really want to know what you think about Ino over Kanatu first, though, because obviously Lexi's got his stronger opinions on Kanatu as well, been very and I've obviously said some stuff about Ino. Where are you standing on this?
I suspect I think Kanatu looked better. But I will also say he was largely on a team that for the majority of the season was also a better team for the majority of the season. I think Axis really vamped up towards the end of 2021. But, actually, Kanatu was really considerably good. We were actually, this guy has been, taking Camille matchups into Ebby and winning those one up, confident to back himself on a lot of variety champions are looking really good. Though it helped that he had a very stable mid jungle and a bot lane that was just unreal for a lot of the season. Sol and Secret were really quite special. So he was given a good space and security to grow and show up as a rookie.
I want to just add something. I want to add something to what you're talking about because I think it's fair with how you set that up, Sam. To also mention that Rascal Jesters they are running back the whole rest of the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Hatchemetcha in the jungle, Recap in the mid lane. Recap is staying in the LJL for another split. Yeah. I'm very happy about that.
Good. But
Sol and Secret, like you mentioned, have stayed. Sam, Vikal as well. Their head coach has stayed. That is a very kind of surprising move that Kanatu would leave or didn't get re-signed or however that went down.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. So I think that, like, obviously, I think Konatsu probably did perform better, but I'm not saying Ino performed poorly, and I'm also aware that he was in a team that was less set up to enable him when they were so focused on bot lane, and a lot of the team was quite new, particularly the top side of the map, actually. You know, like obviously Hoglet is the exception, but you know, you have Megumin, who's another raw solo laner. Hoglet wanted to play around bot side. You know, you didn't. Nemo was still kind of getting used to whether you needed to roam as much around. You know, he was a bit of a newer sport with wanting to play for lane. So like lots of reasons for Rhino to be left in a difficult position. He actually turned out eventually pretty well. He I think had some issues where he bled out more resources playing weak side than he should have, but he still wasn't bad, and I am excited to see what he can do on a Rascal Justice roster that has proven they can take newer top laners and make something of them. I don't think it's that much of a downgrade, if at all.
So I think you could argue for Ino being a downgrade. Depends what lens that you're coming through, because I feel like if you're looking through the lens of Konatsu, you're more likely to win lane on Camille versus Ebby. You're more likely to play carries. You're more likely to win through top side with Konatsu, right? If you're looking at Rascal Jester, though, they're all about Sol and Secret. Recap plays a bit of TF, but like he's not likely to be your main carry from mid lane. So you're really looking for someone that can just kind of hold fort in top lane. And I have to say, like, the game which I'm going to go back to again is like that GP game versus DFM. I thought that was a really good example of what Ino could do on like prime weak side mode, where he's like very much in the zone, very much playing out of his mind. Spring, I know, is very different from Summer. We'll say that as well. Spring was literally just Renekton or bust, and even then the Renekton would just get bled out sometimes. I do worry that Ino could just get individually out-muscled by some teams. I don't think the LJL's that set up to do that this split, though, particularly if certain players, which we can talk about whenever, like, certain players might not end up back in a top lane role. And I'm like, the overall top lane talent for the LJL potentially has gone down.
It's going to be an interesting one. My opinion on Konatsu versus Ino, though. Konatsu is the kind of player that I could see being like that kind of Ebby-like kind of name in the LJL in 2 years. I could see him being like, oh yeah, no, Ebby retired and Konatsu was just the best top laner. Full stop. There was actually not a huge competition. Like he was the de facto best and everybody else was fighting to be that another one. Now there might be Korean import top laners that come in and rival him because they are just so good, or from other regions potentially. But I think in a year or two, Konatsu will be the best Japanese native top laner. So I think if he is going off to a rumored super team that is being spoken about, because that's where I believe he is going, I think that's a very smart move, especially if they're also thinking, we'd love to beat NA and hurt them on their home territory next coming into 2022. Everyone wants to do that. That is everyone's number one goal, to destroy NA's dreams at home. Like, but outside of that, you can actually build a year or two with Konatsu, and I think he's the kind of player that could be that star player. I know, though, this is the best opportunity that he could have for this. Proven team that have already done it with maybe one of the best talents.
Don't need a carry top to make it work as well, right?
Exactly. But he can flex, he can learn, he can get that
this
kind of
thing. This is a good space to grow. Right?
My only concern is his jungler, though. Hachimecha needs to also, because Konatsu also could play that weak side sometimes if Hachimecha got caught out a little bit. I know Ori knows kind of how to do that, but I would argue Hoglet was a better jungler and better at also playing to him if he needed it.
That's not a hard argument, honestly.
Yeah,
that's not a hard
I agree. Like,
I think he's just a better jungler. Like I thought Hoglet was just better. So
I feel like Hachimecha is an unfortunately inefficient jungler, I think is what I'm coming to discover. Like, I don't think he is the most efficient at getting gold out of his jungle.
Consistently at least.
And I feel that actually the LJL has interestingly often had some quite good, smart or aggressive junglers. We've come through the likes of Boogie, Muujin when he was on form, you know, once when he's kind of doing it, Hoglet, some of these other guys. And I wonder whether Hachimecha is in that space where maybe he doesn't do that as well. And, you know, if Ino does come in and maybe doesn't have such a good jungler around, potentially, that could be punishing.
So,
gentlemen, Oh, go for it.
Just
for
one
it,
thing, because you said like the LJLs had some aggressive stuff. So, I talked to people at the LJL, of course, and like one of the conversations I had was like quite a long meme chain about Once, effectively.
Yes.
How Once is literally just like he's effectively just Rambo.
Yes.
I see it now.
It's just like
he's just slowly going mad in the jungle.
For some reason, like he's tooled up with like a Graves and a bandana somewhere around your blue buff. Should he be that? No, not really. This is more like Tropic Thunder though, because like obviously he's really not meant to be that.
Movie and it's all gone wrong. And he can't get out of the role.
So you talk about like
Robert Downey Jr.
When you talk about aggressive junglers, like obviously Once for the LJL is right up there. Once is now a native as well. Believe he's also gone over to Sengoku.
He has.
Of course, we've got Honey over to. There's another player who used to be on Sengoku who we need to talk about at some point. I'll let you pull the trigger on that, whatever.
No,
but like,
let's do this one first, though. Let's pull the trigger on Sengoku. Talk about their whole lineup and also the first new member to the LJL alumni because they've joined us. We've got Jet joining us as a starting mid lane, obviously. Known rather well for their time recently on LNG Esports. Played a little bit as a substitute rather for LNG. Played a little bit for DRX. I know the DRX team that he was a part of was
not great.
To say but that's putting it lightly, mate. Last place team, 2-16 DRX. But I
mean, like this is what's making me like. He's been in some rarefied orgs over the years. Like he had some time on Griffin. He was there for half a year with Griffin. He was then with LNG, who of course went to Worlds this year. That's not a bad team to be in. Went to Team WE, of course, one of China's most storied orgs. Really.
Yeah.
You look at like Wei Zhao from way back when in season 2. That he was WE, right? They've had some serious moments in their history. LNG again. We went back to them. There's Dragon X we talked about. Like those are some relatively heady orgs, even if it was only as a sub or as in the academy. It's just the success rate on them hasn't been phenomenal. And obviously these teams see something in the guy because those are some, they're not without options. I think those organizations. I think it's fair to say. So this might be an opportunity to actually have a starting spot, not a sub role where the pressure and the difficulty when you're being brought in because your team's not doing very well or whatever. You're on an academy roster that's not working out. This is a potential opportunity for him to turn up, but it'll be interesting because there's still a little bit of nerves for it.
I'm going to say this is actually his biggest and best opportunity to succeed he's ever had in his whole career. And this is actually kind of a defining moment for Jet in his career. And actually a lot of the players on this team. So to run it down, we've got Paz in the top lane. We'll talk about that in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Once in the jungle, as already mentioned. Jet is in the mid lane. Honey, as we've mentioned, is in the bot lane with NT, as we've already alluded to. Son also returning as well for the coaching role as well for Sengoku.
Well, that I'm a little more surprised about.
That too. I mean, there is a lot to unpack with this team, and I actually think this is a roster. Theoretically, just looking at it from a point-blank value, Paz recently has gone to Worlds, so there is stock into that idea with V3, remember? He did! You can roll your eyes, Nightmare! He did do it!
He did go to Worlds!
After getting basically in Elo Hell with Burning Core for the longest time, is now out, okay? So now he's got a chance to prove himself. Jet, best time to prove it. Honey, best player in the LJL maybe last year. With NT looking to redeem himself. This is a Sengoku roster where, again, Nightmare, to come back to a question you asked us a lot in 2020, is this Sengoku the one that has to go to Worlds, or is it just a bust kind of line? Think back to Hyperion and Blank. And why did I say that name? We'll come on to that in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Nightmare.
But this is the thing. It's like, it's not even budget Hyperion and Blank. It's budget Hyperion and Blank. Like... Like, I look at this roster, and if all the coin flips, if maybe. The thing about roster building right now is, it's more about getting people on the same page, which share the same philosophy, share the same vision of the game rather than getting the quote-unquote best of individual players, unless they are that damn good, right? Unless you're getting a trophy or whatever. The problem with this roster is that I feel like they have, I don't know, potential. I mean, the thing about someone like Paz is that they are typically a pretty good team leader. They typically are solid, but oh my god, they ended up being such a non-factor in liability to non-factor in the grand majority of their games. Remember that Burning Core game, which everything went to shit in? Sengoku was the other team. It was Sengoku Burning Core, and a lot of that was Paz not being awesome, actually, and Sengoku not knowing how to play around Paz when the time called for it. Actually, when V3 failed at Worlds, a lot of that's because they tried to play around Paz and kind of failed at it. So I really, really hope that having Honey on the team is like, right, okay, we gotta play around bot, and I hope they just do that. The problem is, like, when you're playing with someone like Once, he plays for jungle, he plays for jungle mid too, right? Again, like, if you're gonna talk about, like, budget blank or the blank style of thought, like, there is a very certain way that they play the game. It is very much across the river. It is very much playing for farm, for pressure, for good resets for laners, and then kind of going that into, like, 2-3 item, huge power spikes with some skirmishes thrown in there. But it's not about setting up a certain lane for success. It's not about giving over that agency to other carries in the team. And I feel like with Honey, you gotta do that.
What about you? What's your thought? Yeah, go for it.
So, in my mind, you have got one superstar, guaranteed in Honey.
Yep.
You've got an unknown in Jet, who has some promise, but hasn't really had the opportunity to show it, and there's potential reasons for that. And you've got 3 players who are in need of a redemption arc, and it's not that they were necessarily... How do I put this? It is not that their 2021s are unexcusable. You can explain away why they had a rough 2021. It's understandable. And you can kind of potentially forgive that, actually, considering where the positions their teams were in. You can make an argument that, okay, well, they were in a difficult position. They were in Elo Hell. There's some room for them to move to another team or a different roster.
We're in Elo Hell. Created the Elo.
Exactly. So there's an argument that they were in it rather than having created it, though, as Alex just kind of rightly brought up. The other side of this for me is that actually they do have to redeem themselves, though, even if you can give them the pass. The point is, this is their second chance.
I have Sengoku-related trauma.
This is a team that could cause some Melvinizzle situations again. Melvinizzle could end up in tears again.
Oh, I can't wait to watch this whole season. It's going to be great to watch the mental roller coaster.
We could hit Super Week and Melvinizzle could be a broken man, and it could be
Sengoku's on top of the world.
Exactly, and the thing is, what you've got to remember, this is...
I'm not sure I'm ready to open my heart again.
At the end of Rampage...
man, it's guaranteed. It's not going to be a rerun of the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks gaming. I promise. I swear. I hope.
Yeah. Oh, and so a rough year with squads that didn't work out for various reasons, you can kind of give a benefit of the doubt potentially, but especially when you looked back to the year before, where like Paz was a really good weak side player in 2020. He was
very much so.
Once was on a difficult team, but was a really dangerous factor in the jungle. He was doing crazy things on Lee Sin, Kindred, monstrous things when he got the opportunity and it didn't quite work out. Hell, you go back a little bit further, and this was the guy who was the best down jungler in the region on Pentagram, who are, rightly the org is gone for reasons I'm not discussing right now, but he was phenomenal on that team. Really, really, really good. And so like, you don't have to look back that far to see the potential there. Enti had never finished top 3 out of top 3 in his whole career, despite not being on the likes of DFM and these rarefied super team rosters in a lot of ways. He was still putting up those good numbers.
Yeah, he wasn't on V3 when they have the super run, and he still gets top 3 because he's got Blank Empyrean.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's always been a part of his storied rosters. And I'm just going to end us over here because I think Sengoku, this is a roster that we could have high ones. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously, though, stay tuned for future episodes because this is going to be a one to watch out for when we do our pre-season rankings and predictions because I think we're going to have some spicy opinions, especially coming from our other experts as well. I can feel Sengoku will be an important one. But I want to do something important. to kind of, before we start talking about more new players and also some rumors as well. We first, though, must pay respects to 2 players we have confirmed will not be returning to the LJL this season, and that is Proud and Alchemy have retired. 2 incredible support players. Proud had an amazing 2020 season on Burning Core, where he was this huge anchor point and basically was the redeeming factor for the bot lane of Burning Core, but then he always was. So just gonna say that. Let's go Proud. Alchemy, he played with Gango, like small names like that, lads. Like, oh yeah, he also just kind of maybe mentored one of the best rookie team fight carry players. Like, if you put Milan in a team fight, he will find the perfect spot, and he has there is so much change in Milan from a player when he entered to where he is going into hopefully the 2022 season, depending on where he ends up. Milan wouldn't be the player he would be without Grendel, well, rather without Alchemy, to say his old name.
The artist formerly known as Grendel. I think the thing about, like, with that, because obviously, you know, you had Alchemy on this roster with Aria as well, you know, the crazy 2021, and they did kind of struggle for not really having a strong jungle presence because of the makeup of their team, because of, you know, individuals and their fleeting level of performances.
Thank God for Nap.
One thing you could never count out is that, like, Nap, of course, does the same thing, but Nap and Alchemy would always, if you give them a chance in a group top 5v5, find the right engage. Like, they could find miracle team fights. That's how they kept themselves relevant. They were just probably...
How Aria became that player, right?
Yeah, and but even Aria needed some room to do something in some team fights, right? And a lot of that was... And, you know, Gango was occasionally that secondary carry, and a lot of that was because Alchemy had the ridiculous rel plays, had the ridiculous thrash jokes and all this other stuff. Like, there were some games where
his real name was Leroy Jenkins.
It felt like it sometimes with those brush checks.
And while could I call him, you know, a top support in the region throughout most of his career, he's probably not quite crested that for a lot of it, sadly. No. Was he one of the most entertaining and someone that's probably the most volatile and game-changing supports? Absolutely. Sometimes for the worst, absolutely. But I'm sad to see
2020 spring, baby.
I'm sad to see Alchemy go. Our own LJL Hachani parts through the revolving door. I'm proud, of course, to that one's really tragic. Yeah, actually, that one's really tragic.
I'll jump in there. I am furious he's going. Like, I know he had a rough summer. I know it was a mess spring, but like, this is a guy who I know still has it in him to be a really good support.
So sad.
And again, for me, a lot of that was obviously like Burning Core was just not working in 2021, and like that was clearly the ship wasn't getting righted, and I don't think at that point I want to like completely destroy any player at that point, because you don't really get to see any of it because the team's not working. And part of it as well is like bot lane is a duo position, and unfortunately for me, he was paired with Yuhi, who I still believe is for the worst ADC in the LJL at that point, and he struggled, honestly, for me. I don't think
my dude Yuhi makes like tier 3 gold 3 players in competitive play look fucking great. Like, geez, man, I'm
and you know, obviously, in like this is about Proud, and I don't really want to talk about Yuhi at this point, but that is in my eyes, it's something of a trading weight when a lot of Proud strength has been roaming on things like Thresh or Alistar and making really clutch skirmish plays. Bard, turn up top lane, make things happen with Once and Ray Farki, and that's where this guy was an absolute terror. I still go back to that series versus DFM where he and Gang were just absolutely throwing haymakers from left, right, and center, and it was beautiful to watch. And that's the kind of level I knew that guy has.
That's probably the most exciting support battle we've seen in the LJL ever.
So good. And you know, I am frustrated that this is the whimper he ends his career on, and not the bang I knew he was capable of. And I kind of hope that this is more of him being a bit disillusioned and he comes back. I'm hoping, you know, but you know, at the same time, it's a shame to lose him, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah, I mean, if by any chance Proud ever catches wind of what we do and what all this other stuff, Proud, this is to you. We know you still got it. We know you're awesome. You can be the best support in the region on the day with the right string of form, and we want to see it. We want to see it one day. Should the stars align, we'll welcome you back gladly.
Thank you, Proud. But another player in the support role that has also left us. And this one came as a shock, a gut to the heart, especially as I'd spoken to him not too long ago as our first ever English interview. Corporal has left the LJL, gentlemen. An incredible player. I believe he got on our All-Pro team. He was second. He was the second highest rated support player. And we got Solon, Secret, obviously that story, bot lane. They were an incredible. Secret was up for it. We had Nemo, obviously, with an incredible come-out performance. Gang, as well, was number one. Like, Corporal had changed and helped elevate it with an incredible bot lane, honestly. And though it looks to seem they're moving off to future projects, and they will still be playing, it won't be in the LJL. It's just a really sad thing to see happen, because it's another incredible player.
Yeah. Alas, poor Ian, we knew ye well. Go forth and be a great support wherever else you're going. Sad to lose you. He, again, another one of those supports who had a real eye for playmaking. And again, it didn't completely work out this year, unfortunately. And I think the unfortunately disappointing run in playoffs when we were expecting, we saw that the motor was running for the Hawks at that point. And in fact, it didn't quite come together.
Got trashed in the first round.
Yeah, unfortunately. So was a bit of a frustration. I think that potentially bled into some decisions being made, but the guys got it. I'm excited to see whatever happens to you, Corporal. We'll be watching.
Such a good ambassador for the sport too, actually. I know we kind of talk about, we got super lucky that Fake is the figurehead of League of Legends, but there are figures out there for League which like you kind of zero in on them. You're like, yeah, I want to see more of this person. I want to see them talk more. I want to see them as a character. And like Ian Corporal is such a great dude, And yes, they're English speaking. That definitely helps our involvement with them. But he's just a really cool character, and was part of that. Was actually honestly the main reason that first Axis roster started getting going, because remember they had a bit of a weakness down in that bot lane too. There was Hyde as the AD carry who was struggling a lot. Their positioning was quite poor, and it was really Gadiadu and Corporal that really carried them over the finish line. And we knew his Thresh was awesome, his Nautilus was awesome. He had some great games. His Rakan was absolutely stunning. And it did kind of break my heart a little bit to hear that he was going away from the LGL. However, I think he's still looking to keep playing in other regions, maybe go back to OCE. Again, I actually haven't talked to him about this, so I don't have any information to spill. But yeah, I mean, I think what it boils down to is, look, we're sad to not see you in the LGL, but absolute best of luck wherever you end up, because we know you've got it again. Like, LGL supports are pretty damn cracked.
Yeah, and we
really do.
And we're losing several this season alone for sure. It's leaving some spots though for some upcoming talent, which we'll talk about in a bit. But we've already got 2 confirmed brand new supports coming into the LJL, which are very excited to see how they actually do. One other topic we do want to talk about, because it kind of relates to our next topic of talking about all the new changes and all the new teams in their current thing, plus some rumors. And gentlemen, the systemic issue in the LJL off-season.
We talk about this a lot, by the way. Strap yourselves in.
Here we go again.
Who wants to start first for this one? Because it's so frustrating that, honestly, as we currently know it, because we do not know if any of DFM has been re-signed. We actually don't know that yet. We only know that 5 players are returning to their same teams, same position as they were last year, and that is the 4 members of Rascal Jester outside of Kitanatsu getting replaced for Ino or moving on to other things, and Megamin returning, or rather still being signed for an extra year with Axis.
It's not unusual for the LGL to have like a good half to 2/3 of players just kind of either moving spots or coming in for one season and then just leaving.
There is another player, but
we do have Paz and NT on Sengoku re-signing too, but like either way,
he also re-signed to
okay. Yeah. Actually no, screw it. Like we have to talk about him at some point,
we do.
because
let's do this now before we have this conversation.
Like just so you know,
All the
obviously,
players.
so being very real about it, there is only so much shit you can talk about someone while being professional, and I do consider myself a professional, right? Look, I often turn to humor, I turn to a lot of different stuff, and I understand I don't have the full picture, I understand I don't know what it's like in teams, but there are some question marks which aren't question marks, they're like blatant, what the hell are you doing kind of moments.
Yeah.
And you know, there were moments like that, if you go back to the older seasons of LCS and you're like, how the hell are these players still around in some ways, but I mean, we do try and keep it objective, but, you know, so Yuhi has re-signed with Burning Core, and for us, it wasn't a contest that they were the worst AD carry in the LJL last
We did
split.
our tier list at the end, which was partly memes. It is partly memes, ladies and gentlemen. But at the same time, it was kind of unanimous amongst pretty much most people we spoke with.
And if you don't think we're serious about how the hell is this person still in the LGL, we can bring up several examples of how Yuhi pretty much solo lost the game for his team. The one which I'm thinking of, I believe, was against Gango, so it would have been Sengoku in spring, where it was Aphelios Thresh being put into a vertical jungle situation against them, and it was an Ezreal Kamsa, a very strong level 1, and Yuhi basically walks into the Aphelios level 1 and loses most of their HP, and the reason this is important is because you're looking to basically stomp out the Aphelios Thresh before they get to do anything, and admittedly, Gango and Anti were absurd at their laning duo, but effectively, Yuhi, in a very, very obvious, this is exactly what you're going to do situation, goes off script, loses his team the game. It's not an isolated event, it keeps happening, and we kind of sat here just like, I mean, if anyone out there knows if there is like an X factor which Yuhi brings to the team, we need to see it, because I don't know how he's still on that team. Like, I genuinely don't. Rant over from me. You guys can do your own bits.
That single situation is like it's the one I brought up multiple times in the past before. And the other one is like there was a game where they lost bot lane so hard they had to get a mid lane to roam down and Ray Farkey to teleport down. It ended up with pretty much all of their lanes losing at once because bot lane could not hold itself up. And, you know, I've already made my thoughts clear on the fact I think Proud is actually quite good. You know, it takes two to tango in the rest of it. But whether that is synergy, whether that is me overrating Proud, or whether that's just bluntly Yuhi being poor, is difficult to kind of clarify in a lot of ways. But like,
and if anyone actually has any reasoning for why, you know, they would disagree with this, absolutely tell us. You know, I'm willing to like take a loss if you genuinely think otherwise. You know, I'd like to keep this a discussion.
Sure.
But from there's only so much evidence. There's so much evidence out there to suggest that he's not the level of the LJL.
To put this bluntly, this split was kind of a real problem for the side of Burning Core because actually you needed to be able to play through bots to an extent in the meta as it was. Plates were so important. The ability to set up dives and play in the LJL particularly, things like Jinx or Aphelios, or be able to at least withstand them was absolutely critical. And Yuhi could not. And actually, Burning Core spent a lot of time giving resources to this guy. And he had, like, moments on Xayah. And that was it. That was it. One game.
The local meta of the LJL, I really love that. Because the local meta, we had a local meta. It was a sub-meta within it. But it was because we had multiple players who were so cracked. Let me just say some of the names. Udapon?
Yeah.
Kind of good. Hollow?
Pretty good.
Soul? Honey? Like,
I mean,
even Zenit, like all of the teams, honestly, every single team that made playoffs played hyper carry to some extent through their bot laner, through some percentage of their games. Now, people like Zenit, you did through less so, and Milan, you like rarely ever did, but they still had better performances.
Yeah.
Playing that style than they ever did for Burning Core. And Burning Core put a lot more games into it than any other team that probably should have.
I have yet to find a single statistic outside of vision score per minute in which Yuhi is not bottom 2.
Not to say that stats are a defining thing,
no,
but I think
not.
Stats are a fucking defining thing. If at one point it's unanimous across the board, it's kind of
his average
subjective
gold,
almost at that point.
Like I'm just looking through it. Like stats don't paint the entire picture.
You have looked at deaths per minute.
I'm trying not to.
I actually had a very elongated discussion about stats on Twitter recently. where basically stats in League, they lack fundamental context and they're very hard to use. The thing about judging something within a league, when we have that eye test, and actually, let's be honest, we understand the situation a bit more, is that actually, there was no absurd reasoning or situation which would make it reasonable to have those stats, right? Yuhi was having resources put into them, did have a decent amount of counter pick rate or support counter pick rate, or had some power picks picked for them. Like, they weren't playing stupid meta stuff. It wasn't it wasn't like a meta read or something. He just kind of failed the mechanical test. And again, I've kind of said my part at this point. I don't understand why Yuhi's, at this level at this point. I feel like that should be pretty apparent. And I understand, are you asking me for someone to lose their job? That's not the way I'm looking at it. I just don't think he's fit for this level of competition. And I think that should be fairly obvious.
I think there is better talent which costs less money in the LJL Academy system we have already seen. And that's just going, this player was just better mechanically, full stop. The fact that there are multiple very strong players in scouting grounds and other locations just makes me so disappointed, because clearly something else is at play here, in my opinion, and it's just disappointing to see. But let's actually talk about the rest of Burning Core. I'll leave it come over to you as well, Initialize, for closing points, because Burning Core are also trying some new stuff out with this lineup this year.
They are. Obviously, Ray Farkey has stayed, which I am a little sad to see in some ways, because I think Ray Farkey clearly is, perhaps honestly at this point, their franchise guy for Burning Core, and on that hand, I'm happy for him. And I really do
taking
think
over
this
from
guy
Rocky
is a remarkable carry top laner when given the opportunity. I think that is balanced out by the discussion we've had about Yuhi, and I finally found another stat that's not bottom 2. He's bottom 3 for damage percentage or something stupid like that.
For fuck's sake, okay.
But that's kind of the point. It's stats don't paint the whole picture, but this is a guy who's been consistently in that position for multiple splits now, multiple years now, with multiple iterations of a roster. And this has been cool with a very big new look. Actually, Flawless is coming in from, I think he's coming over from Gen G, I want to say. He's a sub there for a bit. He was on APK Prince. He's been on JD Gaming. He's been on Rogue Warriors, IMA, Spenu. The guy's been around the LPL and the LCK, and this is obviously a move away from both of those, which this is a chance in some ways to reinvent themselves. A lot of LCK players have done that, and that's good luck for him. I think Flawless and Ray Farkey could potentially be a pretty formidable duo, actually. But you've got, kind of a guy who's coming in from DFM's academy in Fujimoto and the bot side alongside Yuhi. I don't have a lot of hope there. In fact, I'd be quite afraid for Burning Core's bot side. I think there's a lot of burning down of towers that could go on down there. And Dice, again, a bit of an unknown factor coming in from LCK Academy alongside Flawless. Actually, he was on Gen G Academy as well. So that top side of the map could be quite exciting, but the bot side, I'm looking at it and going, oh no.
Yeah, I seriously hope that Ray Farkey gets a chance to shine, because I think particularly when in 2020 Ray Farkey was kind of like the foil to Ebby, right? Because he was the one guy that was could go toe to toe, played stuff like Jace, which basically no one else does well, right? You've had Paz plays Jace. I don't think he's good at it, especially playing on
Ace
strong
was
side.
actually weirdly enough
the mid lane Jace player.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there's so when I look at Burning Core, I'm still not holding out a huge amount of hope for them. Gadiadu's also retired as well. Worth saying that I didn't put that on the list there, but Gadiadu was a player which I actually really liked. He was part of that Miracle Axe's roster. Had a shit split, had a shit season.
Had a shit season.
It was meant to be an upgrade over Yu-Gi-Oh! Because obviously, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually ended up being pretty good on Burning Core.
He was passable, right?
Yeah, no, he was good. He had a really good series versus DFM, again, the same one that Proud did.
And remember, Yu-Gi-Oh!, if we're going to say that name for just one more second, V3 Academy undefeated streak through all of LJL Academy.
So, and we will get onto them at some point too. But
absolutely.
I think particularly Gadiadu retiring as well, and was God damn it, Proud and Gadiadu are both players I genuinely think still had it. Genuinely probably could have had another season in them. Really sad to see him go. So
Yeah, Fujimoto's an interesting one, coming off from fourth place finish of DFM. Yes, DFM Academy. They played with Marimo, in the bot lane.
Vaguely rings a bell. Yeah.
They were fine. They were very middle of the pack for me. They weren't the best player from LJL Academy in the support role, but that player has also entered the LJL, so I'm kind of okay with that. Yeah, I'm honestly really not sure of this like Genji Challenger duo that were coming in, especially as these weren't the number one most played time players of that Challenger roster. They were the backups, they were the alternatives. So they didn't play anywhere near as many games as well for them, even though they were a Challenger winning team, or Challenger season winning team. Dice and Flawless weren't those players that really played the important parts in the finals and stuff. So I'm a bit hesitant. I'm not getting the vibes, honestly.
We'll see. I mean,
LJL's I'm gonna make a call
spot.
here. Burning Core's not making playoffs.
No. I think that's quite reasonable.
Already seeing it here. I don't know.
I am looking at least. Look, so you got Soul, Honey, and likely 2 more bot lanes that are going to be like.
Oh, every single bot
elite tier, and then all the other ones that they're not going to beat. So you've already that's almost guaranteed losses. In fact, against them. That's how hard I think those bot lanes are going to.
I think the only way. Oh no, I was wondering. Okay, so there are 2 ways I can view this. Right, the first one is the teleport changes.
The Lexi hot take, and it does this. Boys.
So the LJL, the TP hot hot fixes come in.
I see where you're going with this.
And it means that you can't defend bots. You have to play elsewhere. You can't play through bot early because you can only teleport to towers. Or the fact that they can't defend bot means that they just lose through that. It's 2 ways they go about it. Either you can't prop up this bot lane, or you choose to play elsewhere and arms race on the top side of the map. And I don't know if they've got the firepower to even do that against a lot of the LJL teams.
All right.
I don't even think the LJL teams are looking that stacked this year.
True, but we don't know half of the team still. So, I'm just making my little one. Gonna put that one. Gonna clip it and ship it.
See what happens
and come
with
back
Axis and CGA. We'll see.
Yes, especially those 2 teams. Gentlemen, I want to talk about the one other team we haven't actually talked about with any extent that we do know is fully confirmed. And that is a team that also has a little bit of news about its roster as well coming into it. We have the V3 Academy roster has been fully promoted.
I'm going to cede this
Japanese
to you.
Team to V3 Esports. This was honestly just one of the best teams I've ever seen coming through an Academy. It felt like a super team had been prepared. We have got Washide in the top lane, Unica returning back to the LJL in Academy. Yu-Gi-Oh! Also coming back in. Hatel as a support. And not Marble coming into the AD carry role. It's dress code.
Holiday's over.
It's so.
What's
Marble
happened there?
Was announced.
Tell us the drama. Yes.
Marble was announced to be a part of the roster. However, there has been information spread that. And this is coming from 5chan and shit, so take this with a grain of fucking salt, ladies and gentlemen. That there are disagreements over certain things within the V3 camp, and Marble has potentially found another opportunity on another team. However, that's currently up in the air. All we know for sure, and that's the only thing we do know for sure, dress code is going to be starting
so
for V3 Esports. So Marble is up in the air at the moment.
So with the Marble thing, again, there's a lot of different information floating around. We know that this offseason's been very domino effect, so anything could happen. Mm-hmm. I've heard that potentially could even not have a team. So actually, in terms of what can you take away from what we know right now, actually, very unsatisfyingly, not very much. But that tends to be the way with rumors, particularly with LJL when we're English speakers, not having a massive direct route into the LJL and stuff like that. But either way, I know you are very excited for Marble. So it's a big loss for them.
Yeah, he was honestly going to be that player that I thought was going to come in, and I was going to be like, oh my God, this is the future talent. This is genuinely future talent worthy. If you want to know how good he is, go and watch the finals of LJL Academy, where he just slaps everyone he plays against in a 3-0.
Just remind me again, where are the rumors saying he's potentially going again? I kind of blanked on that.
This is 5chan bullshit rumor stuff, dude. So I'm
Yeah.
saying this, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. The only thing confirmed is dress code is playing.
Is playing, yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, I will be interested to see where the hell Marble ends up as a result.
Yeah, it's
it's a big loss.
But I mean, that's also a huge spot because we've got Unica back, who is on fire at the moment, playing a very diverse style in the jungle. Yujio coming in and really does seem like he might come in and get that rookie of the split kind of reward, maybe. Hatel I had already pinned as a top support upcoming player. Played again in Academy. They played in Scouting Grounds originally, came to Academy, stomped through Academy with Marble. They can make so much calm, and I think honestly, dress code has just now got a better support, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, I was asking around about dress code as well to see if anyone had played against him and stuff like that, and actually, I haven't heard a great amount because obviously he was substitute for the Hawks, not even playing on Academy. So we actually don't have that much.
He played for Scouting Grounds, yeah.
Okay, yeah, but he's not like been he's not had a huge amount of game time, so I did some fishing, didn't actually find out that much about him. So V3 for me is like literally just going off of the Academy VODs, and like because the level of competition there, and particularly like the way, I mean, so the next year coming into it does seem like Scouting Grounds is getting more attention. It seems like it is going to have more games. It seems like it is going to have like an actual prize pool and stuff like that. Because this year, I mean, like for those of you that don't know, like a lot of Academy is completely unpaid. Like, a lot of it is, like, volunteer stuff, right? So a lot of the teams that were being, put together didn't have great support. We're just trying to make things work as 5 players and maybe someone in there as an advisor. Outside of that, so then actually to see V3 success and hear about them actually knocking some heads together at, like, cross-region, too, in terms of the Academy scene, it's actually very exciting to see them actually succeed in that kind of environment. It's very kind of like... It's kind of like, if the LJL had a Griffin, I guess, this would be... kind of what they had. Sadly, Marble was such a key player. Question is, have you removed Chovy from the LJL's equivalent of Griffin?
Yes.
Honestly, I think they might have. He was that kind of player where it's like lightning in a bottle. You can't get a player like that. You just have to just let them play, and either they swim and you're so happy or not. This is a V3 sports where I could see them just going really far. They could also not make playoffs, and I'd be like, yeah.
Field's open right now, actually, yeah.
Yeah, they are really all over the place. Gentlemen, let's talk about some roster rumors.
Sure.
Has anyone got any roster rumors they want to start us off with?
We can bombshell loads of this stuff. I've heard rumors that Cogcog's not getting a team.
Wow.
I've heard some links about that. But, like, Cogcog was one of my players in the LJL. I rated. I think in my All Pro, I think I had Cog over Kanatu. Actually, I'm a big fan. I think that. So I would go. So in terms of like my top 3, and then like kind of hanging around there at the bottom was Kanatu just underneath that. But I had like Ebby, Cog, Rayfaki. I mean, even then Rayfaki had a bit of an off year because of the whole Burning Core stuff. So like Cog was the one guy I'm like, yeah, he's the guy that can contend for Ebby still. You know, they played against each other so much. I don't know, the win rate is heavily skewed in favor of Ebby. But like on the eye test, Cog's one of those people that you can actually build a team around.
I like that.
So rumor that he's gone. I don't know how much we want to rattle through this because I know we're getting out of time. But my initial reaction is, what the hell?
I mean, that would be shocking if it actually would be true. And he was our third overall All-Pro team. Like the fact that someone like that doesn't make it, but then we have seen like players like Jizuke, players like Johnson, players like all over the world at the moment just haven't got re-signed for a wide variety of reasons. And it would just be such a kicker because that's an LJL native player not playing that was a defining player. And unlike Hoglet, Honey, and Aria, who have either stayed and moved teams or moved on to other regions, Cog wouldn't be doing either. He would just not be playing. So I would be gut-wrenched to not see at least one more season from him when he's still on such a good place of his career at the moment. I think I want to talk about another player that is rumored to be returning back to the LJL. And last time he was here, gentlemen, we pegged this team as the super team.
Oh, yeah.
They were building it. Another team now might be building a super team in the LJL. The Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks gaming checkbooks, I believe, are out, gentlemen, and Blank is coming home, boys.
Yeah, And it
back,
was
baby.
Kenzie that broke it too, so it's pretty good info.
Pretty legit. Yeah, we're looking likely to have Blank on the Hawks. They're one of the few teams I think that could pay for his budget. There are also some rumors, I think, that the Hawks have been in talk with some relatively big name coaches, actually, potentially as well.
Because the Hawks have links with T1. They're, in fact, I think actually currently the Hawks have either their old academy roster or their main team from like blah, blah, blah. There were some Hawks related players at T1's Korean training facility.
Yeah.
The links are there.
So yeah, there's been some rumors. There's been like a
then
few
some of
potential
the T1 upcoming players are now going to C9. So
exactly, because for that they had LS as their link, right? Of course.
Oh man, the Berserk now.
Berserker and Summit, baby. That's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
But for the Hawks, I think they have got the money to make things happen. They've clearly been making some interesting moves. Blank's already shown he can succeed in the region. There are a few players I have my eyes on to see whether they end up on the Hawks. Kinatsu, for example, I think may well end up on here.
Rhino
I
potentially or Nemo.
Rhino, if I would love to see. I mean, Cog on that team would be Cog plus Blank would be great. Although we've already said he might not be getting a team, which is a real shame. So yeah, excited to see where the rest of this roster shapes up, and whether Blank will have some good players to play through.
And I will say, if Dasher is still on the Hawks, and remember Dasher was our pretty much out and away second best mid in the LJL because the mid lane pool wasn't awesome. It was stable, but it wasn't awesome in the LJL. It was basically just Arya and Dasher, and then a lot of people like being fine, mainly control mage players, and that was kind of it. With like a couple of
kind of the king of that like next role.
Yeah.
He was like perfectly serviceable, but like Megamin would. I'm hopeful that Megamin will actually start challenging that this year. Because if he doesn't, it's gonna be like, mate, you've had. He's probably
gonna plateau at that point, and he'll be like.
Well, I hope he doesn't.
He'll be like another recap level player-ish, ace level, that kind of like good, but like you're not really gonna make that splash after the point. But yes, I think if you're playing like Blank Dasher, actually with the players across the league, and then the other rumored player, which we'll probably talk about next on DFM, if things come to be, I'd say actually on paper that's the best mid jungle 2v2 in the league. Because Blank actually last time I was here was very good about playing around mid jungle 2v2. Like the way he played with Pyrion, even though Pyrion had a bit of a shocking season like the year before that and all the rest of it, like it had a couple of more because he was on that awful Origin team going into a bit of a meh Hanwha life. Where was Pyrion? Was he KT? Trying to remember. Anyway,
he was on Blank was on KT. Yeah.
No, Pyrion before that. Because he went back to the LCK for a little bit. Anyway, he didn't have the best stats, right? Even though the eye check kind of like passed for him. Like, I mean, that's one of the other arguments for like stats don't really do Pyrion justice. Came to the LJL, Blank Pyrion did a really good job, and like you had Steel and Saros who were really good, and you had Arya just kind of winning mid jungle 2v2 on his own, and then it really was the Sengoku mid jungle at the time then. So I'm looking at Dasher, who could actually be potentially unlocked by this, particularly because Tussle didn't have a great split this year.
No, he didn't.
Who knows where Tussle's going to end up to? I mean, he's one of the big old timers in the LGL. I Blank could rustle some feathers again. Hopefully it's because he had a really bad finish to the LGL in his last series. That very graceless 0-3 dump out of playoffs by DFM in summer 2020, where like he just didn't connect with his team. Like I hope he comes back with more of that fire and really just comes back and ups the level of the jungle in the LGL.
I would love that if Blank and Dasher could come together. I mean, I think that is also where Kinatsu is rumored to be going to, and I think honestly, if that is the top side of the Hawks, man, they needed to re-sign Honey. They should have re-signed Honey, and like honestly, I don't know how that team couldn't be a super one. I'm excited to see who they do get in the bot side. Potentially they might import, right? They could import for the bot lane, some crazy AD carry. Teddy? T1 Teddy coming over after retiring?
I thought Teddy was going... where was Teddy going? What were the rumors?
Was he Africa? My apologies.
I can't remember, yeah. But
I think it was Africa, yeah.
There's a chance that
I feel like Teddy is... Teddy came from the LJL.
He's signed.
Yeah, he's a freaker. I was about to say, Teddy and Keen sounds like a great roster. In fairness, quite excited to see that. But
if the Arya rumors would end up on a freaker again, wonderful. Would
have been great. Keen, Arya, Teddy. Love it.
I think it's worth, gentlemen, to move over to, as you alluded to, Nymera, the detonation focus me rumored new mid laner that is being spoken about. I believe it's Yaharong.
Yaharong, yeah.
The rumored at the moment, former player for Frederick Byron?
Brion, yeah.
For Brion, yeah.
Had a lot more success when he was still when Jin Air, Green Wings were still around.
He was on there for a long time, yeah.
Played with them for a while, ended up winning, getting second place in challenges in 2020 summer. So actually had a very good debut as the main starting mid laner. I don't know how the Fredit stuff went, kind of, because there was other mid laner
There's
who
three other mid laners,
who is still remained. Chieftain as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, what's your thoughts on this player? They're a complete unknown for me, I'll be honest.
So what happened was, when the rumor came out at the same time that Arya was basically confirmed going to KT, I messaged Chronicler and was like, if you're going to be casting Arya, do you want any facts about him and stuff like that? Because I know quite a lot. And basically we just traded some messages and all this other stuff. And basically what Chronicler was saying is that Yaharong, like, while he kind of had a bit of a difficult situation in the LCK because of, Brion not being awesome, he's definitely much better than the results showed, and he's a very flashy, flary kind of player. So basically just look out for him. I'm gonna pump him for a bit more specifics on that, but I don't think it's ever going to be a replacement for Arya, particularly if he's not fluent in Japanese as well. That's going to disrupt the communication in DFM, regardless. If they re-sign everyone, right, it's going to affect some things.
I mean, Steel would be a pretty critical sign to do the translating again.
I think that trying to plug and play with Yaharong is going to be difficult, and that's potentially going to upset the chemistry in DFM, which is always a very big thing that we talked about whenever there have been changes to DFM. I mean, I don't know the whole implications of the whole knock-on effects this will have, but I hope that DFM are going to contend. I just don't know if they're ever going to reach the level of form that we saw this year. It's looking very unlikely.
Well, you can only have lightning in a bottle once, right?
Yeah, unless your name is like oh come on, Yennefer, and you can do that as
unless it's like a really good semiconductor with like.
Need to watch season 2 of Witcher.
I've not watched it yet either. It's just come out.
Need to do that.
Looking forward to watching that. Anyway, that was a big tangent, and I apologize. I think Yaharong. I think that's pretty wise words from Chronicler. That the guy had his moments of brilliance, but he's been on rosters that haven't necessarily been title contenders, hell, even playoff contenders. Jin-Air in the years when it was Teddy or bust. Like there's some other, those kind of things where you go, this is another one of those chances where it's a chance for a fresh start. We know DFM has the rest of the core there pretty good, assuming players stay. Obviously, like for example, Yang has left. He's off to another team.
I mean, the thing is, like a player like this was part of the Jin-Air that went 0-18. Like I don't know, dude. Like, no one's going to quite fill the shoes of Arya for DFM because Arya came into a spot where he was replacing the Emperor. And Arya did that. He delivered exactly what DFM asked him to do. And I think what's going to be really important, because you've set us up for this, Initialize, perfectly. What does this era of DFM now look like? What is the makeup of this? Do they retain players like Ebby, like Utapon? Do they retain all of this stuff? Steel and Gang have probably only got another year, and it's rumored that Gang might still have another year kicking in him. So do they stay with DFM? Is that still guaranteed success? Or do we see something crazy like Utapon Gang going to the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks?
I mean, like, here's the
that's spicy, right?
DFM holds on to the other 4 members. Hell yes, they should be put towards the top end of that table, saying, "Yo, these guys are really good." And
but I would say,
has got his moments, and maybe there's an opportunity. Like, I don't think that's necessarily I don't think he's Arya, but I don't think he's necessarily going to get rolled by LJL mids. Probably.
I would actually say though, if they keep everyone and put Yaharong in, if they go towards a style where they just kind of let mid do its own thing like Arya did, right? Just let him succeed in a vacuum or do whatever in a vacuum and then play around the rest of the map. I think they'll still be a contender.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think they are. I don't know if I put them on paper favorites. I don't know if I'd be that.
Not.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, if Hawks signs who we think they might do, potential
they'd be scary.
They'd be pretty. It depends who they get as bot lane, right?
Dasher's proven as well, right?
Blank Dasher is a really good combo.
A good combo.
And now
also,
exactly.
I know Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh Unica, like that is proven.
But
for me now.
But there is actually something to be said about how much catch up do the other teams need to do in terms of synergy, in terms of the communications that they got, in terms of all these other inbuilt things. And the LJL has typically had to play a whole split of catch up before summer comes through, and that's obviously going to put DFM ahead. I don't think, though, actually, that they'd have potential ceiling to be a team which really clicks.
Well, but that's, I mean, for me, assuming the other 4 members of DFM stay, and that's the big assumption, they need to stay. If all 4 of the others stay, then I still think it's on everyone else to prove DFM aren't good enough for the title.
If you removed any one player, would you say the same? If Gang had to go, if Utapon had to go,
then no. I think then they'd still be a contender, but it wouldn't be the same kind of they're still the kings until someone proves me otherwise.
Yeah, and I think
as it stands, if this Yaharong's coming in and he's coming in with at least some blessing from the LCK like analysts, then for me there is still like, okay, this is still the team to beat. They still did damage at Worlds. I still have belief in these guys. They've done it for so long and been at the top of the game for so long. Someone would need to prove me wrong.
But the thing is, Arya had proved himself in the LJL to be the best mid laner in the region. Yaharong, assuming every other member on DFM does that, there is the expectation that they run it back. Like, what kind of pressure is that to put onto a player? Because the shoes he's stepping into is now, yes, you're going to the LJL. People could see that as a downgrade, and that Arya has upgraded now to the LCK. If Arya has a good split in a place where you never had that much success, and then you don't give DFM
for the first
everything,
time ever, actually.
It is the opportunity of a lifetime for this guy, assuming everyone else from DFM stays there. I hope it's just plug in, take a spring off, come back in the summer. They don't go to MSI, but they maybe go to Worlds, and like that's the kind of way I could look at it. But
and again, like I'm just looking at Rascal Jester potentially keeping it the same level of power, not having to play catch up. Actually, might even play a better style for themselves if they're playing more bot focus, because I know it's going to be more weak side rather than like trying to put resources top lane. Play towards Sol and Secret, who is so incredible. Like, I think I would put Rascal Jester maybe as on paper then. And then we have to wait on the Hawks and say, actually, who do they get into the bot lane? Yes, they have to make these pieces work together, but like, it's a tough task to call the favorite. Do I think that these teams are better than even their last year iteration? Bit hard to say. I think that the Elder's going to be a bit...
I think that'll be a good comparison one to go into this year. Who would we prefer, 2021 or 2022 roster? For all these teams, that'll be a great one to do. That's content.
That's content. We'll save
that.
Content. I know we just clicked over to like an hour and a half. I don't know how much longer we want to keep going. Have we been through all the rosters now?
I think
CGI I know nothing. CGI I know nothing, so I can't say anything on them.
Yeah.
Axes I know. Well, Megaman signed. Basically nothing else.
No, don't know anything about that. And Hawks is currently rumored. Blank and Kinatsu, and we're hopeful that Dasher returns because second best mid laner in the region.
That's a big part of my opinion.
Maintains it.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other rumors that I think are worth talking about currently. Obviously, there's some talks that V3 have extended long contracts with all of the members of their team, but I mean, that'll be interesting to see if that remains true or not. I mean, I think what's interesting is to think like a player like, it seems to be that Ace potentially might not be playing for a team and might be the head coach for V3 Esports. Like that's
crazy, actually.
Kind of crazy to think, but like again, we don't know because remember all of V3 is now replaced, right? So there's a lot of players around. Obviously, we've already mentioned Cog, we've already mentioned Reiner. Are there any other notable players that haven't got teams at the moment confirmed that we really would like to see coming back?
Well, I mentioned Cog. If Reiner doesn't get a team, I think that's a huge mistake too.
Yeah, potentially.
Gango.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Gango, I believe, has moved off. Gango... it was Crash. Crash has gone over to Fenerbahce Esports. So congratulations to him on still having work.
Yeah, I mean, I think Crash was fine this year. I think he had his ups and downs, had some very high moments, had some not so great ones.
Very low moments, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just looking through everything else. We already talked about Gadiadu.
Yep.
Yeah,
There's a lot of CGA, or I'm like, no.
Nap would be a sad player not to see one.
Yeah, I
split
think
out
Nap.
of.
Yeah,
I think he's plateaued, but Cog's the huge one.
Cog's a big one. I mean, we've already said I'd like Proud to come back, but he's clearly retired as it stands.
I think it's just make sure Nemo has a spot somewhere.
Nemo would be a good. I think again he has proven there's a good ceiling there to work with. I think Gango was mentioned, a good shout. And then the actually come back. Don't leave us.
The only two which I think are pretty egregious to miss. Well, I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about Tussle, but again, not a great split. And then Afferman as well had a bit of a meh year. We know his peak though. Very fun guy. He's Papaman as well now. He's got a kid. Although apparently a load of the LJL pros have just decided to have kids in the last couple of years.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
But like Afferman's had some good moments too, and he's such a fun player to watch. He's a bit of a firebrand in terms of like just always drawing in fights. Just like he's gonna find himself in a 1v3 at some point in the game. It's kind of inevitable. So I'd like to see him back too, but we'll see what happens with a lot of these players. I mean, that the revolving door may provide its bounty once more.
Gentlemen, to end out this episode and to reference the season that it is in, it is Christmas time.
It is.
And I'm going to come to each of you first before I give my own. But I want to come to you first, Initialize. Can I ask you, underneath the Christmas tree, what are you going to be asking for Santa at your number one spot for LJL Christmas wish? What is your LJL Christmas wish, Initialize?
That we end up with a team that can go to MSI and continue the work laid down by DFM, that it will not be a flash in the pan. It's a little bit of a silver lining. It requires a bit of work to do, but it's a win.
Imera, coming to you. What's your LJL Christmas wish?
LJL officially official. That'd be pretty cool.
I'd like that. I'd like that one. For me, I just want to see.
Oh no.
Megumin pop off.
Explosion.
Properly like I wanted in 2022. I want to have a breakout season from Megumin. That's what I want. I want my LJL rookie to well and truly now no longer be a rookie and to graduate to defining member of the LJL and come a stalwart for years to come. That's what I want for the LJL. Wait, what's this? The rest of mine is the LJL dunks on C9 again. Oh, I mean,
that'd be hilarious.
Fuck, yes.
That'd be pretty hilarious.
I mean, it's gonna happen.
The fact that it kind of came down to, it's not
moment?
actually a rivalry, and then like they lose in that
Fuck
fashion.
you guys!
It's pretty wonderful. And I'm like, in fairness, like I can understand them backing themselves like that, but I mean, obviously for us, we've basically got like our dream LJL scenario happened, and it was wonderful. And like, if we can conjure any of that again, bring it on.
It would be glorious.
Well, with that, gentlemen, I do believe we are reaching the very end of the podcast for this summer special. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be potentially doing more of these random podcasts as we get slightly closer. When spring season has more details and announcements, we will announce our plans and everything for the LJL 2022 spring season before we get on to the summer season and everything else. Gentlemen, crazy. Season 3, we're going to be starting the podcast. Crazy. We've been doing this for 2 years fully now. Year number 3 is upon us.
There we go. It's been a long time. It's been a pretty good set. We sucked for a bit. Even though our first podcast is the one with the most views, we kind of sucked for a bit. And now we're pretty okay, maybe.
It's listenable. It's tolerable. I feel like.
I sit here for an hour and 40 minutes every time listening to you natter. I mean, I natter on too, but us natter on.
Nattered on. Coming over to you first, Nightmare. Got anything you want to shout out for Christmas or anything in general?
No, just, keep an eye on the old socials and doom scroll through my feed just as I doom scroll through everything else. I'm sure I'll have some stuff to talk about at some point. It's just a lot of stuff up in the air right now. Looking forward to it. Also slightly worried as well because that's just the person I am. But I am pretty excited overall. So just keep an eye out on the horizon.
Initialize, what about you? You got anything you would like to plug or say around this time of year?
Pay attention to my Twitter because this is the announcement of the announcement that I announced earlier on this podcast and on Twitter. But the announcement will be cool. It's pending.
Announcements, ladies and gentlemen, to end us out. We might be looking for help soon, but
we might be.
We'll talk about that later. Who knows? Who fucking knows, ladies and gentlemen? But anyway, happy Christmas, everybody. Happy Christmas. Have a great New Year if we don't do any content. And ladies and gentlemen, the LJL's coming back. We'll be there. Will you, ladies and gentlemen?
Will you?
Will you? Will you? Thank you, everyone. Bye. That's it. We're done.